welcome to this episode of Authentic Achievements, where I am delighted to be joined by the fabulous Earnie Doc Fingers, Ph.D. Earnie, welcome.
Good morning or good afternoon. Hello, how you doing? Thank you for having me. It is an honor and a blessing to be here.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to having this conversation. It's going to be so full of insight. But before we get stuck in, let me share a little bit more about you with our audience. So you are a native of Prince George's County, Maryland. Doc Fingers struggled to make meaning of his early life experiences. In fact, ended up flunking off his high school basketball team due to poor grades. By God's grace, he was fortunate enough to find his way. And Doc is a proud, eternal optimist, believing there is always a chance. Doc says that the challenges in life are often not a matter of one's ability, but an inability to hold fast to a whatever it takes mindset. And your breakthrough is possible. Winning for each of us is possible. So we have to just go and get it. I love that. Because it's true, isn't it? It's what we tell ourselves in here is what plays out here. And once we get in control of that, then we actually start to see things going our way.
Yes, absolutely. I say that I teach a couple of classes, and I always start off by telling the students that if you can change your mind, you can change your life. And it sounds simple, but it's not always that easy. So because that voice, it runs, and people estimate between 35 to 75,000 thoughts a day run through our minds. So how do you control that inner voice? That's very important, especially when you're talking about being your authentic self. You have to use that voice to overpower what the world is trying to tell you.
Yeah, and often what we tell ourselves isn't very kind, is it? And I know certainly I've fallen foul of this, of saying things to myself that I would never dream of saying to another human being, because you just wouldn't. And yet we quite happily will say them to ourselves and don't really understand the magnitude of impact that has until we actually start to say things that are nice about ourselves and see the difference.
Yes, absolutely. And I think two of the most powerful words are, you can't do that. Because we'll talk ourselves in, next thing you know, you can't do it. You can't, you know, whatever reason, those are the words that oftentimes will come out, is that you can't do that. Well, who do you think you are?
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely the who do you think you are. I find myself in that camp far too often. But can you tell us a bit more about your journey so far? Because you've packed so much in and are living proof of changing that mindset changes your outcome, aren't you?
Yes. We're going back. I think I'm one of 7 growing up, and we didn't have a lot, and that was okay. You didn't realize it was okay when you were going through it. But as you grow older, you're saying those things don't matter. It's more about who you are than what you have. And I was blessed enough to have great parents who got up every day and went to work, and they showed us that you had to get up and go get it. And the situation wasn't always ideal, but they never gave up. They never let us know that we were struggling. It's not till you get older and you look back and say, wow, like, man, I didn't know we had it that tight. But it ended up being a blessing to my life. And now I'm able to bless my son and my family through my past experiences. But one of the most, and it still bothers me to this day, and you kind of stated it in the intro, when I flunked off the basketball team, that was from an inner voice that told me that I wasn't a student. It was like, you're not really good at school, so don't really worry about school. And I didn't. I worried about playing basketball, and it's embarrassing to think that I could not maintain a C average. And it was all from an inner voice that did not tell me that I was a student. So that is really the foundation. And from there, I was able to develop, again, I was blessed. Something changed. I think it was more so people that prayed for me, because I come from a praying family. And it finally turned on that you can be greater than anything you can think or imagine.
It's so true, isn't it? We hold ourselves back inadvertently, and until we get control of that. And sometimes I love that people, like you said, people prayed for you. People gave you belief in what you were able to do. And I think belief is one of the most powerful gifts that we have in the world, and it's ours to give people. And we forget that. You know, when we ask people to do something, we do it because we believe they're going to be successful. Because if not, not only do we look a bit stupid, they look a bit stupid. So why would we do that? But we don't take the time to tell them we're doing it because we believe in them. And yet, when you kind of get your belief and amalgamate it with somebody else's belief in you, then the energy you get is significant, isn't it?
Yes, yes. And I think that, and as you say that, and you know, both of us having children, we have to understand the role that we play in their development and in their confidence level and in their self-belief. And we just have to confirm and affirm, I mean, literally everything that they do. Even when it's a mistake, it's saying that's all right, because mistakes, as we know, are a part of life. And if we sort of shame and guilt them whenever they knock over a glass of milk or they drop the spoon on the floor, it's all right, it's okay. And we at an early age, the shame and guilt builds, and then we start worrying too much about other people's opinions. Anything happens, we're looking to our left and looking to our right to see who's gonna talk about us or laugh at us. At the end of the day, no one else's opinion really matters, and that's the part that I think really holds us back, is that there's a fear of other people's opinions.
Yeah, it's so true. And I can't remember whose quote it was, but I heard it and I liked it, which is, other people's opinion of you is none of your business.
That's it.
And I can't remember who said it. Was like, it's so true. We get ourselves so hung up on, and actually sometimes they've not even said it. I don't know if you've now. I've gone, oh, I can't do this because so and so will think this. Well, I don't know that they think that. I've not even asked them if they think that. I've just used that as a reason not to do something.
Yes. And I remember telling my son, because I would drop him off in the morning or pick him up from school, and as I told him, the most exciting part of my day was picking him up. So if I came out there literally every day, I was putting on a show. I wanted him to know I was excited to see him. Yeah, and he'd be so like putting his head down, like, "Oh, Dad, oh my God, why do you always do that?" I said, "I'm excited to see you, and I'm going to let everybody know it." And I said, "You worried about what your friends are going to say?" He is like, I said, "I know." I said, I've been there." And I said, "But let me ask you this: how many of them gave you lunch money today? How many of them put any shoes on your feet?" And he's, "None of them." I said, "So don't worry about those people at all until they start pouring and giving to you in meaningful ways. Their opinion doesn't matter."
Yeah, I love that. And like you, my favorite part of the day is picking my little girl up from school and hearing about her day and working those bits through. And I think it's, we have a bit in our house where we've never said anything is naughty. So we talk about whether or not it's a positive choice or a not so positive choice. And so the beauty is if you make a choice that doesn't serve you, you get the chance to make a brand new choice straight afterwards. And she sometimes plays that back with me, because the dog was jumping up at me the other day and I went, "Oh, you silly animal." And she turned around, hands on hips, and she went, "Mummy, he is not a silly animal. He made a silly choice." I was like,
That's it. That's excellent.
I love that she's getting that definition, because we take the label and we make it ourselves, don't we? I am naughty. I did the wrong thing. And it's like we need to lose the labels and just be who we are, don't we?
Yes. And again, that leads more to us being authentic. And it is so very difficult to be authentic. And part of what I like to do with, teams, organizations, individuals is, let's get to the core of who you are. And from there, that should be the foundation of how you are wherever you go. But I've been surprised, but not so much lately, when I ask individuals, "Tell me what your values are," because you're living by them every day. So can you tell me what your values are? And most people can't articulate what their values are. They know they're living by something, but to actually be able to articulate those values that drive their performance, that drive their decision making, it's challenging. And it's not till I give them a list of over 100 plus values that they get to choose and pick, and they say, "Oh yeah, these right here." So, and that's something I've been able to transfer to my son, is like, when you live by your values and you know your values, your choices on your friends, who you're hanging out with, career choices, what organizations you want to be a part of, those things become so simple.
Yeah, well, it gives you that kind of like blueprint, doesn't it? I was re-listening to Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and in it, it was his son that was reading it, and he shared something that I'd missed the first few times I'd read the book, and that was about having a family mission statement and creating it together as a family. And Scarlett and I did that. We'd heard it last year. And so our mission statement was to live a life of passionate curiosity and to pass our thoughts, words, and deeds through the lenses of, is it kind, is it honest, and does it add value? And if we can't say yes to those 3, we shouldn't do it. But it really is helping us to make such better choices, and it makes decisions so much easier, because it's like, does this live by what we've said our mission statement is? And if it doesn't, then that's probably not for us. But it's so important to do that, not only with our children, but with our people, isn't it? With our teams and the people around us. Because if we all understand the value set that we are living by, then actually we become much more harmonious and much more successful.
Yes. And that is the cornerstone of culture within any organization, are the values.
Yeah.
And what are we living by? And I've spoken with, again, especially young folks entering into the workforce. I said, did you even look at the organizational values before you decided to become a part? And they were like, no. I said, so you were more focused on the opportunity or the job more than you were about the fit, because you may get along with people. And I say, don't be fooled by getting along. That doesn't mean that we're necessarily on the same page. It just means we just choose not to, bicker or disagree. But when the rubber hits the road and we really have to dig deep, we have to be on the same page. Our values have to be in alignment. And I've seen this with coaches on with teams. They'll choose talent over fit. And now you end up with, as I call them, high maintenance and sometimes low productivity. You want to be efficient in the selection of your team and building of your organization.
Yeah, I love that. I often used to say I'd much rather recruit for willingness than skill.
Yes.
I can teach skill.
Yes.
I can't teach the willingness to come with me on the journey. That's got to be there. You've got to have bought into that. And I think you're so right. A lot of organizations have values and they've put them up, but when you're in them, they don't live them. And you see that. So actually, people can get disconnected by the fact that if you're not walking the talk, if you're saying one thing and doing something else, then we see that, don't we? And we disengage.
Yeah. And it goes back to what I again tell coaches, organizations, is that there's a difference between values in ink and values in action.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have values in ink, and because you can choose the nice, colorful, wonderful sounding, verbiage.
Yeah.
And when you go into the organization, you get inside those doors and those walls, you're looking like, I'm not seeing any of this, And I always say that for every value that you have, I should be able to see a behavior that matches that. So that's your value. Tell me how this is played out behaviorally within your organization, within your team, even within your family. Tell me what that looks like, because you can throw around terminology. And I've seen this again in teams, especially coaches say, hey, guys, girls, it's all about character. And you'll see about half of the people looking up in their head like, well, what do you mean by character?
Yeah.
And I said, you have to give people clear examples, because if you're dealing with a team or an organization where we're coming from so many different places, and me growing up hearing character, I'm thinking maybe a cartoon character, So you have to be very clear, give people clear examples, and then begin to set expectations once they have an understanding.
Yeah, I love that, because we actually all learn in slightly different ways, don't we? So, some of us are visual, some of us are auditory, and some of us like to know that other people have been there before. They like feel, felt, found things. So, I always try and share with people, it's like, tell me what I'm going to see, what I'm going to hear, and how I'm going to feel. Because if you can tell me those, then actually I can understand that, and then I can make a choice about what I do with that. And that's kind of what you're doing, really, isn't it? Is getting them to really put the colour into bringing it to life so that we understand what we'll be seeing if that happens around here. If we
Yes.
were all being trustworthy, what would we be seeing that we're not seeing today?
Yes, yes. And again, and that's important. And oftentimes it goes overlooked. We make this broad assumption that you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm talking about. And I say if you don't say it, don't believe that it's understood. And we face that all the time, just in terms of our personal relationships. I know my wife will say that. Well, you know what I meant. You know what we do. And I'm like, yeah, but just say it, and that way it clears any doubt that you didn't know what I meant or didn't know what. Again, I'm supposed to now be a mind reader.
Yeah.
It's important. Just communication is the key to any successful relationship. And we all know this, but we still don't step into communicating and over communicating.
It's so true. And I was talking to somebody just the other day. It's like one of the other things I think we've got really bad at is we've stopped listening to understand, and we've started listening to interject. So I'll listen just long enough for me to be able to put my point across, rather than really listen to you to understand where you're coming from. And I think once we do really listen, we get rid of a lot of the conflict, because it was very often just misunderstanding, miscommunication, or misinformation, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we, like you say, but if we're communicating and over communicating, we eradicate that.
Yeah. And it's nothing complicated.
Yeah.
It's just that sometimes it's a matter of pride. And most people can't explain why they don't communicate. And I say your thoughts don't bless anyone. Because there are times when, again, using myself as an example, I may think that my wife looks beautiful wearing a certain dress, but I don't say it. I say, man, in my head, I'm saying, man, that looks nice, instead of sharing it, because I know she would like to hear it. Then I have to say, you know what, you look good in that dress. And it's like, of course it comes with the, oh, wow, thank you. And, but again, those thoughts bless others. And again, those thoughts allow everyone to stay with a certain level of clarity. And that's all we really want in any relationship. And that's the part that I stress to everyone I get an opportunity to work with. A relationship is a relationship is a relationship. I don't care if you're talking business, if you're talking personal, you're talking team, it's still a relationship, and everyone wants the same things. But the depth to which I have to give it to my wife is different than what I give to a coworker. I have a coworker a 2 or a 3. I got to give my wife 10s across the board, right? So, but there's still the same things. You want to be valued. You want to be appreciated. You want to know that your voice, your opinion is being heard. And everyone wants that. Everyone wants to be included or feel a part of whatever we're a part of.
I love that. I also believe at our core, every individual wants to be listened to, understood, and respected. And that doesn't mean to say we never disagree, but we don't disrespect. And I think you're so right, isn't it? It's that giving out. And one of the things I've taken to do in the last few years is, when those thoughts come in my head, I will just share them with people. So I am the weirdo that goes up to people in the supermarket and goes, gee, your hair looks lovely today, because I thought it. But actually, you see the impact on people, and they're like, they beam, and then the rest of their day is slightly better because you went and said something nice. But if not, we do just say it in our head, don't we? And that doesn't help anybody.
No. And as you just said earlier, the inner voice is probably maybe telling them that they look horrible.
Yeah.
And to be able to give someone something positive. Because that's always a focus of each and every day, is just to be able to give someone something, because we know that everyone on this planet is dealing with something. There's a struggle going on in all of us. Sometimes it's not as great for you as it is for me, or vice versa, but everyone is dealing with a challenge, and to be able to inject or interject something positive, may give them just enough hope to get over the hump that day.
Yeah, I love that, and it is so true. It's something that I share with my little girl all the time. So if we can add a little bit of kindness into somebody else's day, then we've done good. We've done good. And in return, we get to feel kind about ourselves because we were kind. And
Yeah.
it kind of changes things, doesn't it? We'll all have had those really awful days, and somebody will have just done something really small and seemingly insignificant, but that's the thing that made the difference on that day when everything else was going so hideously wrong, because it gives you that chunk of light, doesn't it? That's like, it's not all bad, it's not all a disaster. There is some hope that things will get better.
Yes, yes. And as you say that, it takes me back to the name of the Fingers Touch.
Yeah.
And of course, it's part of my last name. But and I tell everyone, never underestimate the power of your touch. And the touch can be what you may say. It could be something that you do, or literally it can be a hug. And I think all of us at some point in our life have had that. We call it the grandma hug, when she may not say a single word. She just gives you a hug because she knows that you need it.
Yeah.
But we all never underestimate the power of a touch. And I think we talk about the head, the heart, and the hands. If you can get one, you're great. If you can get two, it's awesome. If you can touch all three, that is amazing. So never underestimate the power of your touch in any way, shape, or form that you are interacting and engaging with people. That's the background behind the Fingers Touch is that we like to seize every moment possible.
Oh, I love that. I was about to ask you about Fingers Touch because it's a great name and it is so true. We are all touching people all of the time. It's just we're not always doing it intentionally. We're not always thinking about actually what do I want them to feel or think or get from this interaction. We're thinking about what we want to feel and think and get from the interaction. And you're trying to, it sounds like what you're doing with Fingers Touch is getting people to be more intentional about what they're doing with that moment of touch, whether it's what they're saying or what they're doing or how they're being, is to actually do it with forethought.
Yes. And it's a lot of people refer to it as nowadays mindfulness is a big term, but it's just being aware of what you say and what you do and go beyond the tip of your nose in terms of what you're thinking and what you're doing. You may push by someone and not even really be thinking about how their day is going or your impact, especially when you're someone of influence and you have people around you that are looking for if it's approval. But just a state of a greater sense of awareness of what's going on within you, number one, but then just outside of you and those people who you have a chance to touch. So I like for us to have a greater sense of self-awareness and then just an awareness of how we, again, touch other people.
I love that. And I've got to ask, can you tell us about your recent experience working with Homeland Security? What was that like?
It was wonderful. Because growing up, I never gave a thought to really being a part of the military. I just, my father was a kind of a tough-minded guy, and I was ready to get out and do my own thing. And so I never really thought about it. But then as I grew older, it's like, man, those are great opportunities to serve the country. But then even at the federal level with an organization like Homeland Security and organizations within the government like that, it's a chance to give back because you know that those individuals are literally laying their lives on the line in service to our country. So just to be in that space, number one, was wonderful. It just felt great to be there. And then once you go through that day and you're seeing, man, these are just good people. And they have an excellent team, an excellent staff. When we got through that day and we looked at values and we called it really looking at your core, they had such great alignment that as I told them, if the day would have went any better, I would have probably shot through the roof. But they just had, again, it's not about perfection. It's about your effort. It's about your intention. It's about your passion. And they all brought it that day. And it was, again, if I could have every experience like that, I probably would stop getting paid because I would almost do it for free. That's how great that team was. And again, it always goes back to leadership. I laugh because it's similar to when when your kids go out in public and they do well, and everyone is like, oh man, you got such a great, it goes back to what's done at home. So the leadership amongst that group speaks volumes, because they feel like they have a great environment, what I call a healthy culture. And it allows you to be the best you can be in terms of the quality of your work. And you're not hesitant to give more. You're not looking at the clock saying, oh, my 8 hours are over, I'm out of here. It impacts quality and quantity of work. And know that, those are the people that are protecting our borders. It was everything. It was close to working with a championship Super Bowl caliber World Cup team for me. So, thank you for asking, but it was amazing.
I love that, because when a team really works well together, it's a joy to be part of, isn't it? It's a joy to observe and see how they're pulling all those bits together. And it demonstrates that when you get this stuff right, and when you put the effort in, build the center of the team, the rest of it, the rest of it will just be so much more successful, won't it?
Yes. And sometimes we have to be reminded that we are. And I think for them throughout the day, they were able to see that, and that was the intent, that we have more in common than we'll ever have, that makes us different. And throughout the day, you kept seeing that, people like, oh, okay, wow. Because they were broken up into multiple groups, and each group had approximately 5 people. But you got to see how the groups, in the end, there were common themes across every group. And at the end of the day, they were saying that very thing. Wow, like I didn't know we had so much in common. And that, to me, is the energy that creates the synergy that you need to get you through a tough mission, whatever it is. We know that we're in here together. We're all fighting for the same things.
I love that. So obviously in what you do, you must spot lots of things that hold people back, and create a barrier for them to be their authentic self. What would you say are some of the key things that people do hold themselves back on, and how they might overcome them?
Well, number one, and we started off by talking about mindset. When you get up, and I say mindset is what you believe is possible for yourself, whatever the situation is, that is your mindset. If you wake up, when you put your feet on the floor and you say, hey, instead of saying another day, another dollar, you're saying another day, another however much I wish to go out and get. But you got to believe that I can do it, that you can do it, or even have a mindset regarding your team and your family that there's nothing holding us back other than us. So number one is your mindset. And it starts from the inside out. Our success, and I call it winning. And that's another focus of the Fingers Touch, is winning. But the key part is that winning is not based upon what's on the scoreboard. And sometimes we can look at our life and say, well, man, I'm not at this level. I'm not at that place. But we remove the value of the journey and the process. Because to me, getting up out of bed, and I work also in mental health, getting out of bed can be a win for someone who's struggling with depression. So we got to value the steps, value the wins along the way, so that ultimately you may get that victory. Again, I do a lot with athletes, and I ask the question, I say this for, everyone: do you control winning? And some people say, yeah, we do. And I said, well, have you ever lost? And they say, yeah. So you wanted to lose? And they say, no. So you don't control winning. All we can do each day is influence outcomes. That's it. Do your very best to influence the outcome, because everyone has seen, if you're in watching sports, or even in a courtroom, if you get a judge that wants things to go a certain way, he can make them go that way. You can do everything right and it still not turn out the way you desire, but you got to go back and look at, was I prepared? And confidence comes from the preparation. Some people put confidence in their talent, skills, and ability. That's when I think you can become arrogant, when you believe it's all about what you're capable of doing, rather than saying, you know what, I'm prepared. Not only am I talented, but I've done the work to make me the best on this day. And I think, but again, it starts with our mindset. So that is that first limit.
Mhm.
And then I think the other one, we talked about this a little while ago, is worrying about what other people think.
Yeah.
Stop looking to your left and looking to your right. Because you could run a race and say, well, I stayed with everyone else. I beat everyone, but we're looking at your time and you just barely won, instead of running as fast as you can possibly run. Go as hard as you can go every day. You could be so far ahead instead of you just worrying about who's to your left and who's to your right. So that to me is the second part. Your mindset is one. Number two is, again, that's the fear of other people's opinion. And it's social media. We look for approval. How many likes did I get?
Yeah.
And we allow the world to determine if I'm okay. If I don't get enough likes, then maybe I'm not okay. No, you're fine. You're absolutely, let's say you're fearfully and wonderfully made. There's nothing wrong with you other than you got to change that stinking thinking and believe that all things are possible. But you got to put in the work,
Yeah.
right? Don't be afraid of the work. There's a lot of people that want but don't work.
Yeah.
How does that work out for you?
Well,
Did you?
never
Right.
very well. It's always in that. It's in that. It's what you do consistently, isn't it? And taking those steps. And I love quotes. I remember somebody sharing one once that people that are at the top of their game, top athletes, and that they don't practice until they get it right. They practice until they cannot get it wrong. And that's really stuck. Is actually how do you keep going? You don't just go, I got there. Go right now. I need to do it again. So that actually we're repeating the piece, and that's where real success comes from, isn't it? And we can get ourselves distracted by the despair and compare society that we've created, where we look at the seemingly perfect lives of everybody else and find the messy reality of our own a little bit lacking. But once you get out of that and realize that that's not real and it's not yours, and just get on with what's there for you, things get much easier, don't they?
Yes, yes. And I've always, again, I love people from birth to death. And I think sometimes in our older life, and I love our seniors, because they reach a point of not caring. As I say, they reach a point in life where they don't give a damn. And if we could take that on in our younger years, life would be so much more enjoyable. Like you'd just be at another level of peace if you can just say, you know what, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they think, because again, they're not contributing. You know, everyone has an opinion, but it just doesn't matter what they think, you know? So, and I'm glad I'm able to pass this on. You know, I call my son my test project, because I run everything through through him so that he can understand. But I think that if we can, and it also goes back to being encouraging, being more positive, just as a world, as a society. Let's show each other more love and understand that we are more similar than we'll ever be different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And that kind of answered what was going to be my next question, which is what would you like to go back and tell yourself? And it's just to be yourself earlier and give up on other people's opinion, isn't it? It's like, actually the opinion that counts is yours.
That's it.
And that's what I used to say to Scott, you know, like she'll come back sometimes and somebody have been really mean to her. And I'll be like, okay, so whose opinion do you trust more, mine or theirs? Yeah. She's like, well, yours, mummy. I was like, right, well, in my opinion, you are kind, you're bright, you're beautiful, you're curious. So why would you decide that you're a mean, evil person? Because this one little person who you don't even like has said it to you. Why does that suddenly void out all the positive voices that are coming your way? And we need to focus more on that positivity, don't we? Focus more on, like you say, on the love and understanding and putting kindness back into the world.
Yes, yes. And I think I've read where if you get one negative comment, you have to repeat it. You have to get 16, 17 positive just to erase the one negative.
Yeah.
And you said it earlier. You may get up and tell yourself something, you know, negatives, and we'll say sometimes things to ourselves that we wouldn't allow someone outside of ourselves to say. Yeah. So what on earth would put that in your head to say that about yourself? But that's that's sometimes where we end up have the disbelief. Sometimes we don't like ourselves, and it's for no real good reason. So, and we have to fight that. That's a constant battle for some. And again, being in mental health, people walk around with a whole lot of anxiety and worry about things that will never happen, but they will continue to worry and think and ponder, and those things disrupt the flow. And that's one of my big words is flow, is that you got to find flow in life. And when you're in that rhythm, there's a peace that comes with being in flow. But we have to find that. We have to seek it and hold on to it.
I love that. Doc, I could literally chat to you all day, but I'm very conscious of time and that we've overrun. How can people get in touch with you? I mean, clearly we'll make sure it's all in the show notes, but what's the best way people can reach out?
You can check out my website at thefingerstouch.com. You can doc at thefingerstouch.com. And I'm on Instagram as The Fingers Touch. I'm on Twitter at The Fingers Touch. And I'm always open to great conversations. So I greatly appreciate you having me on today. And and I just wish everyone well, and to think positively and to move on those thoughts. Don't doubt, just believe. And, you'll wake up and one day you'll be near that destination you've hoped for and dreamed of.
I love that. What an amazing way to end today's chat. Thank you so much, Doc. I look forward to our next conversation. And until next time, take care all.
Thank you.